And we are live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Big League Show. As always, I'm Connor Somerville, joined by Mr. Aiden Silliphant, and today we're joined by Sam Cleary. Sam, Aiden, how are you two doing today?
Sam, you can go first on that one. Guest goes first.
Pretty good. It's pretty gloomy outside, but fairly nice out.
I can
Very
agree with
true.
that. It's a very gloomy, rainy day, but hopefully the sun comes out in a bit. But other than the weather, I'm all right, Connor. I'm all right.
It's good to hear. Let's start off the show. We're not going to talk immediately about Sam because I think we should acknowledge something pretty quickly. It's the only sports topic we're gonna talk about today because unfortunately Aiden does have to take off at 4, so we will only be on our Spirit Live block. But I wanted to acknowledge the fact that I don't think either of you are soccer fans. I know Aiden, you aren't. Sam, I'm not sure if you are, but
Kind of.
kind of. So you've heard of Diego Maradona then?
Yeah, I've been seeing all this stuff today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So unfortunately today he passed away following, I believe, a heart attack is what's being reported. He had surgery earlier in the month for a blood clot in his brain or on his brain. And he's had health issues for a little while now. And today, unfortunately, he finally passed away. He is one of the two best soccer players of all time. He is up there with Pele. Between him and Pele, you could argue either way, in my opinion. Some people might say, oh, but Ronaldo, Messi, neither of them have won a World Cup. And Maradona, he has, just a little cheaply. But we won't get into that whole hand of God goal. But yeah, I thought we should acknowledge that because he was somebody who a lot of people, especially in the generation that's just older than us, really looked up to and got very interested in soccer. But we'll talk more about sports potentially next week. I believe we have Skylar queued up for next week.
Skylar should be on next week, yeah, so I guess we'll have a big soccer discussion around that. But yeah, even though I'm not the biggest soccer fan, like obviously the name is iconic. I've definitely heard of him a lot before. I think there's like some famous soccer moves that are named after him, if I'm correct. And I remember even like at a young age, I remember some World Cup game where I was cheering for Argentina, and I believe that Maradona was the coach of that team. So that's kind of how I first got knew about him and his career. And I didn't know he was such a legend at that point. I thought he was just, the coach of the team, but he's actually a player and he's one of the best of all time. So, I mean, yeah, rest in peace to him. And 2020 just keeps getting worse. So,
Yeah. And Fred Saskamoose, the first Indigenous hockey player to play in the NHL, also passed away this past week. So thoughts are with both Maradona and all of Argentina because they adored him, as well as the Indigenous community and Canada and the hockey communities to sort of remember Mr. Saskamoose and what he did for the game of hockey. But let's move off the depressing death conversation and instead talk about something more positive, and that is Sam. Sam, you are obviously a second-year sport media student. Third year. Can we go back to second year before 2020 happened?
That's facts. Can we go back to second year?
But yeah, so third year. I'll try that again. Third year sport media student. And I guess we'll start off the interview with the question that we always open with. And that is specifically, what is your first memory of sports? And what is your first memory of sport media?
I think my first memory of sports was probably playing like t-ball. Like I can like that sound of like first base, that noise that it makes is just embedded into my brain. Yeah, my parents pretty much put my sisters and I in baseball since we could walk. And then for sport media memory, probably wasn't until a lot later. I want to say it was like during the Olympics or something like that. Like obviously like seeing like crazy replays or something and being like, I want to be able to like do that type of camera work or take those shots, right? Because it just like it really creates the whole story and everything. And yeah, I guess that would probably be one of my first sport media memories.
So have you been
something around
interested
those ages.
in sport media for a long time then?
I actually didn't really see it as like an actual career in a sense. Like I never really knew what I wanted to do. Just I just know that sports was part of my life. Like it, every summer play baseball, and then throughout like school and stuff like that, play a bunch of different sports. Um, but it wasn't until like grade 12, until going to the university fair, that I saw the sport media thing and talked to some girl in second year and like fell in love with the program and realized that, oh, I can actually do this as a career. So
So was baseball or softball like a big influence on you and getting into sport media? Did you watch a lot of, Blue Jays growing up?
oh yeah, my parents are like diehard Blue Jay fans. Like they watch every game, and like literally our basement we have an entire shelf full of just like baseball books and memorabilia. Like my mom has a baseball signed by Pete Rose. Like all these
Wow.
like crazy
That's got to
things.
be worth a
Um,
lot.
it kind of faded. He wrote it with like pen or something like that, not with like a Sharpie, right? So, or
Okay.
anything like that. So I don't know how much it'd be worth. But yeah, so baseball was definitely like a big influence, to say the least. The one that I played the most. But yeah.
Okay, and we'll dive into more of your playing career later, as I embarrass you about some of the accomplishments you've had in sports. But let's sort of talk about uh, you discovering sport media and sort of the lead up in your grade 12 year to applying and all of that. So you mentioned that you heard about, discovered, I guess, the program at the university fair. Did you really consider this as like a number one option when you were applying, or was this sort of something that you sort of applied to in passing and you thought, if I get in, I'll go, but I don't really think I'll get in, or I don't really know if this is actually what I want to do?
So, funny story, I actually wanted to go into journalism. And
Oh,
I remember seeing Carleton had this sport journalism program, like in their book, when they come to school and stuff like that. And so when I went to the university fair, I went to the Carleton booth and I asked the guy in the English department, like, what's the journalism program like, especially like the sport journalism program? And he pretty much just said, oh, it's right there in the book. And that immediately turned me off. I'm like, you can't even say two sentences about the program. Um,
mm-hmm.
and so then when I passed by the Ryerson booth, and saw sport media, bold letters, I was like, I'm going to see what this is about, because it's obviously sports related is what I wanted to do. And I think really just talking to that second year student, like she had so much energy and like so much passion. Like when she talked, I just like was like, I was like almost blown away. Like I stood there talking to her for like probably half an hour, and like the fair was like closing at the time too, and my friends are like dragging me out of the place. I'm like, wait, I have more questions, but
Wow.
yeah.
I'm curious
Do you
as to,
remember?
yeah, what you two talked about. I don't know if you were going to ask that, Connor.
Um,
I was going to ask, who was it? Do you
Oh,
remember who it
true.
was?
I don't remember what her name was. She had glasses. I remember that. I remember like what she looked like, right?
Uh-huh.
Um,
Yeah.
we talked. What did we talk about? I think she talked a bit about Rams Live and uh, about sport journalism, because obviously I was asking her about that. Um, and then she even mentioned, she was like, it's crazy that you have like all these opportunities, because she was saying how the next day she was going to some field in Toronto to do like a feature on Quidditch, like people who actually play
Oh,
like Quidditch, like obviously on the ground, right? But there's just
yeah.
like how it's like so funny, and like how that's kind of like a sport, or like a culture from a sport. And she was able to do that, and I was like, it's a really cool opportunity, I guess.
So I guess that really turned your interest in towards sport media. So what was that application process like then for you? Like you're sort of going into your application not really knowing about the program before the university fair. So you didn't really have, I guess, anything before that to sort of show, yeah, I've been trying to get involved in the industry up until now. So what was that application process like in general? How did you find it?
Um, I found it obviously very tedious, but like I was actually looking forward to applying because I had a friend who applied to media production, and so we basically went through the processes together, um, just to like try and help each other out and remind each other, okay, this is due this day, stuff like that. And I, like anybody else, researched the hell out of the program. Went on YouTube, looked at all the videos, went on Google, pages deep. I was like, I need to find out more information about this. I was like showing my parents, I'm like, this looks like so cool. I would love to do this. And like, yeah, so that process, I guess, it was obviously like, I think I did majority of that process like over Christmas break.
Okay.
Like the question and answer stuff. And then beginning of January back at school, I was like, okay, I need these references from, it was like 3 people or something, right? So I got like a coach, and then 2 teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was fairly easy. I was kind of worried about one teacher because I was like, it was like the day before the deadline, and I was like, yeah, I haven't put the reference letter in yet. Like to like send her an email, just be like, did you put this in? It's like, yeah, I just did. I'm like, okay, it's great. No need to worry. But yeah.
It was definitely a stressful time for all of us, really, that last week or a couple of days, up to the deadline there. So after you found out you got the interview, you pick your day. Do you remember what day that you interviewed? We always ask this question to see if people remember. And I am still shocked at how many people actually remember the day that they interviewed on.
Okay, so funny enough, I remember the day. I remember literally everything about it. I remember what I was wearing, the weather. Like, I remember people that were there who aren't even in the program. Like, it's weird. I have like a really good memory, I guess. But my interview was the last day of March break. So it was Friday, like March 16th or 17th, something like that. And my interview was supposed to be for 11 a.m. So I got there, was waiting, went into the room, did the Q&A thing, and there was some other girl there who was applying to sport media. She didn't end up getting in. But I think it was only us 2 that were applying in like that group, I guess. And, obviously waited nervously. A lot of other people like with their parents and stuff like that, but I was just like alone because my family all had work and stuff. So I was just kind of internalizing my thoughts and feelings, getting a lot of anxiety about it. And then got called into my interview. My interviewer was Donna. And literally like right off the bat,
Finally someone else who had Donna.
No, but literally like right off the bat, Donna was amazing. Like, she asked me like some question or something like that, and we started talking about baseball. And she's like, "Oh, I used to play that when I was younger too." And then instantly from there, it's like a weight was lifted off my shoulders, and it didn't feel like an interview. It felt like a conversation. Like, I was just like so like calm at that point, And yeah, the rest of it just went pretty smoothly, and just we're telling jokes, we're having laughs. Yeah,
That's really good. I'm curious, have you kept in touch with the other people that you met on the interview day that didn't get in?
I did not. I only talked to like that one girl, because we were like waiting outside the room to go in, right? But no, I honestly, it's like one of those things where it's like I remember talking to this person, but like I couldn't remember the person who's 20 feet away from me pacing around. Like, I don't remember who they were, right?
Right.
But yeah.
Huh. That's really interesting hearing people's different experiences with the interviews. But like one thing that we notice a lot that comes up is it is just a conversation. And I know, Aiden, you had that as well with your interview with Dan Berlin, I believe. Yes.
No, it was Joe. I had Joe.
Joe, right. It was
Yeah.
Joe. It was one of the 2. Yeah, it's really interesting hearing just people's different experiences. But let's dive into now a bit of your experience at Ryerson, because you're pretty involved in the actual community, I guess, in Ryerson, some leadership roles. But let's start off with sort of the academic side. We like asking this question, or at least I like asking this question. What has been your favorite program so far? Or class, I guess, is a better way of putting it. What's been your favorite class throughout your time in sport media?
It's really hard not to say TV lab, just because that's where like you create the most bonds, stuff like that, have the most fun. especially creating shows. Even this year too, like it's just so much fun. But a class I was really surprised by that I liked was on air. I remember going into it, I was like, I'm so nervous, like I don't like on air, like I hate doing it and stuff like that. And then, we go through a couple of the first assignments, and I'm like, okay, it's not as bad as it seems. And then, especially when we started doing the EFP stuff, I'm doing these things in one take, and everyone's like, do you want to do it again? I'm like, no. Like, I just started to have like sudden confidence in myself with on air, and I was just like, oh, this is actually like really cool. And I found like, not necessarily like a love for it, but just like I enjoyed it a lot more than I expected. And yeah.
Did you want to get in on air before coming into the program? Like, did you have that aspiration, and it kind of, you've kind of been working towards that your first 3 years? Or was it like, I have no experience doing on air, and in second year, all of a sudden, I'm really liking it and I want to pursue it?
I never wanted to do on air. Like, coming into the program, I want to be like, I want to produce, I want to direct, I want to do camera stuff, like I want to do a bunch of other stuff, but being on air, I don't know if I necessarily want to do it. Which is weird, because in high school I was like a part of like a lot of leadership things, and I wasn't afraid of public speaking and things like that. But yeah, for some reason in like that class, and I guess like the people in that class too, kind of like helped make it more comfortable. Yeah, I don't really know how else to describe it.
So what do you want to do in sport media once you sort of get out of the program? What are your sort of aspirations for a specific area in terms of a career? Do you want to go to school again afterwards?
See, that's like a tricky question, because obviously I love directing, and I've directed a lot of shows. Like, I directed both shows that we've done this past semester. And I think it would be really cool at some point to work on the Olympics and direct an Olympic event and just like create memories that live in people's minds forever. Like, for example, the golden goal, like picking those shots to represent that story, because that's what everyone watching the game on TV remembers.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to be able to kind of create those memories, but also sometimes like being a camera person is like cool, because I remember doing, I think, Rams Live the first couple times, and I would do a lot of volleyball because I love volleyball, right? And I would do replay cam, and during the game I wouldn't necessarily see like a lot of my shots from the feed, and I'm like, why are they not showing like all these shots? They're so, like, I think that they're really good, things like that. And then you go to the credits, and it's like, it's literally just all the shots from my camera, and I'm like, oh, so they were good shots, they were just saving them for like highlight packs or something like that. And so it kind of gave me like another boost, like, oh, being camera work can be kind of cool. But also, like, see, this is where it like gets difficult, because like I would love that stuff to do, but I also like doing features and documentaries. Those, I think, can also be really powerful. I mean, especially like with The Last Dance, like that thing still just boggles my mind, like the amount of footage that they had, and like just how they all set it up. But also just like editing. Like, I'm taking editing specialty right now, and I don't necessarily, like, yeah, I'm learning things, but it's almost as if I knew a lot of it already. But obviously it's good to like learn a few new things, but I could definitely see myself editing like hype videos or things like that,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just think that those are extremely powerful. Like, I remember Therese sent me one the other week when the reverse retro jerseys went out, and of the Calgary Flames bringing Blasty back, and literally like the editing on it was so good. Like, it was amazing. And I just kept watching it on a loop, and I don't know, I just want to be able to have something that people connect to or just think is like the coolest thing in the world.
Sounds like you have some pretty big goals. You can branch off into different things, which is really good. Being a triple threat or quadruple threat, I think you mentioned 4 things there that you want to get into. So that's really good.
Yeah, it's better than not having any, because there's some people, it's like, what do you want to do in 5 years, 10 years? It's like, I have no clue. It's like, I have a general idea of how I would like things to plan out, I guess.
Yeah, and you're keeping your options open, I think, is a huge thing. You're not really narrowing yourself to one specific area, which I think is going to be very beneficial for you. But you mentioned not Spirit Live. We'll get to your Spirit Live in a second. Rams Live. So, what have you specifically done apart from camera work with Rams Live?
Literally, that's all that I've done for Rams Live. Like,
Okay.
like no, but like I want to do other things, but usually they're taken up so fast, and but like I only ever really used to do volleyball in first year and second year whenever I could get the chance, and then I did hockey sometime in second year, I think, because we're required to for TV lab, right? And I was like, oh, this is actually really fun. I wouldn't mind doing hockey. So I was like, I started doing more of the sports, I guess, and started to work more on those, like, I guess, camera skills. But
So, what has that experience been like then, working on Rams Live?
it's been great. I mean, everyone is like lots of fun. I always love like when we go around in a circle and say something like a fun fact about us or something. Or I think one time we did was like a favorite movie or something like that, and people were just like their reactions. Like everyone is like so chill and great food. We'll say that.
I have a funny story about the circle thing, actually.
Please tell.
When I was there, so we went around, and I forget the exact question. I think it could have been like, who's your favorite movie character? Or no, sorry, what I think maybe it was like something about what movie character relates the most to you or something like that. And we were all saying like joke things. So I was just like Iron Man because I make sacrifices for the better of the team. And then they decided to put me on handheld.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And yeah, handheld's pretty bad too, because like my shoulder was hurting like a couple days after. And also like you're in the corner and you don't really get many opportunities to be put on air, because it's just like only if the puck comes into your corner you're going to go on air. So I was never on air, but I was still having to hold this camera on my shoulder the whole game.
That, my friend, is what you call karma.
I guess it's karma, but like still, I wouldn't. Iron Man is sick. I wouldn't take that back.
I would also like to be a billionaire superhero. But, let's move on from Iron Man and talk a bit more about your Ryerson stuff. I guess we could do Spotlight, which is your Spirit Live show now. You host it with Kayla Rosmus, Therese Sevilla, who we've had on the show before. Go and check that episode out on our YouTube. The Big League. Alex, I'm going to butcher this name. Voinu? Yeah. Okay, I actually did. Wow, I'm impressed with myself with that. And Keaton Wilichka. So basically you talk everything and pretty much anything. I think you have like sports, pop culture, and one other thing on your Instagram.
Oh, we talk a lot about reality TV. I will tell you that.
Reality TV. That was it.
Yeah, so that actually started last year. Second semester, where like we would always have these breaks in between our classes, and we would all just have these conversations, obviously, sitting around a table. And we're just like, why don't we just get creative practice hours and turn this into a show, right? Or like a podcast. And so we applied, and then scheduling didn't work out, basically, with like it being a live show. And then we were like wondering if it was worth becoming a podcast for. And so then we ultimately just decided to not do it during that semester. And so when Spirit Live was starting back up this past semester, Keen messaged our group. Was like, if you guys are still interested, I think we could do this, especially as a way to get creative practice hours now. And we were all on board, and it is so much fun. I'll actually give a sneak peek. We're having some guests on this week, so stay tuned for that.
Ooh, nice.
I'm not gonna spoil who they are, but we have 2 guests coming on, so it's gonna be a full house of 6 people. Or
wow.
7.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Well, check that out on Friday from 11 to 12. A.M., not P.M.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be a little insane. Can you give us a little hint as to who it might be?
How do I give a hint without giving it away?
Are they sport media students?
They are sport media students.
Okay.
Are they from
They
our
watch-
year?
Yes, and they watch reality TV. I'll just say that. I don't like. I don't.
Okay.
I can't think of like a hint or like something like that.
Okay.
But yeah, so we talk about a bunch of different topics that happen throughout the week. So we always kick it off with sports. It's usually like me and Therese, stuff like that. And then we go into reality TV, and that's where like Kayla, Alex, and Keaton just take over. So we talk about shows like The Bachelorette. Obviously, that's like apparently the go-to reality TV show.
Yeah, you're not going to get any help with reality TV here on my end. I don't know if Aiden watches it.
Definitely not that. My mom watches it, so I catch like a little bit of the sneak peeks, the kissing scenes and stuff. I'll leave the room for that stuff, but no, I don't watch it. No.
I'm cringing so hard right now. Please continue, Sam. Escape from this cringe.
So they go on about like The Bachelorette, Dancing with the Stars, The Amazing Race. I'm sure if Survivor was on this year, me and Keaton would probably talk about that because we're both big Survivor fans. But yeah, they talk a lot about reality TV, and it's just so much fun because we basically just like bash some of the people, like what was this person thinking, or like I'm rooting for this team, and then we go into kind of like pop culture stuff. So really just other news that happened throughout the week that we kind of briefly mention or talk about. Sometimes we'll only talk about like one or two things, but other times we'll just like go down a list really. And then the last segment of our show is like a debate. So we did for our Halloween episode, we did a what's the best Halloween movie? We did like a whole bracket. So that was pretty fun. We have done like who's the best Spider-Man? What reverse retro jersey would we buy? I'm trying to think what other ones. Yeah, there's been a couple.
Tom Holland's the only correct answer.
That was my answer. He's good for the modern era. Come on, people.
I would say so too. Then probably Tobey Maguire.
Yeah, Keaton was very Tobey Maguire. She was fighting for him.
You can argue. I could hear arguments for. Oh my God! I just watched it. Into the Spider-Verse. That Spider-Man. I can hear arguments for it.
Yeah, we didn't even
Miles
think
Morales.
about that. Miles
Morales. Thank you. I can hear arguments for that. But we're like half an hour into our conversation. We only have like half an hour left, and I want to get to everything else you've done because you have done quite a bit. And obviously, Spotlight is a major part of that. And final question on that: do you record these and put them anywhere? And will you be continuing it after Spirit Live finishes for the semester, which will be next week?
We're still thinking about that. We don't know. We definitely wanted to have like a Christmas episode closer to the holidays or something. We just think that'd be fun. We can also have like a Christmas movie bracket. But we have been like recording them, and basically instead of like releasing them weekly, at the end of the semester, I'm gonna go through the hours of footage and audio and stuff like that, and basically put together like the highlights of the semester.
Nice.
So like whether if it's like hot takes or people debating or whatever, just something so that like if people don't have time to listen to a whole episode, then they can just watch basically the best bits of the season.
And that's a good way to tie it to your YouTube channel, which is where I presume you will upload it. And there's only one thing I want to talk about, because we do have to jump back to Ryerson quickly for one more aspect of your sport media career, I guess. But you uploaded what you got?
Yeah. Listen, I needed that portfolio. I need people to know that I did that, okay?
Does Zach know?
No, but I never
Was that
told you I was
Was that a second year production?
Yes,
that
was
was
our
a
final
second
year.
Oh, okay. What was your role on the project?
Director.
Oh yeah, she has authority to upload, Connor.
Yeah.
Well, Zach danced like Michael Jackson on it, so
Yeah,
But
I feel like
I mean,
he should
I'm
get
sure
a say in it.
Zach wouldn't mind it. It's Zach.
Yeah.
That is
yeah,
true.
like
That is very
exactly.
true. Huh.
Um,
I haven't actually seen it. How did you get the footage for that? Did you just take it from like? Did they send it to you?
yeah, so it used to be in like the shared folder or whatever with like all the show
Right,
recordings,
right,
and
right.
then I guess we lost access to that folder, and I was like, I emailed Ryan. I was like, can I get this? I want to upload this as like a portfolio piece, kind of, and also just like to watch it back and like have like that memory. Um, but yeah, he sent it like right away, and I was like uploaded it, and yeah.
Shout out Ryan. He's a living legend and one of the best people in sport media. But yes, I think I DDR'd for that, if I remember correctly. So I have a small
Yeah.
piece of my TV experience, which is very limited, somewhere on YouTube, which we'll link Sam's YouTube channel down below. But we'll sort of wrap up the Ryerson chat before we talk about some stuff that you've done, I guess, outside of Ryerson, specifically like what you're currently doing now and all of your stuff that you did beforehand through like high school. But right now, you are the sport media rep for the course union for RTA students. Can you tell us what that is and what you do for that?
So basically, the course union for RTA students, also known as Curtis,
Yeah.
is just like the RTA program specific union, where we host panels, other types of events, run RTA Frosh, different things like that revolve around the RTA community, and just really just are there for specifically RTA. Like I know like fashion has their own student union, things like that. But yeah, and like the sport media rep. So basically, there are different teams on Curtis. So obviously, there's like an executive team, but the program reps are part of the education team. So that's basically like, what is your program interested in seeing? Are they interested in panels? Are they interested in events? Obviously, events were a lot easier last year, but
A little bit, just a little bit.
Oh,
yeah, just a little bit.
There wasn't quite a global pandemic to contend with.
Yeah. But basically, like, we're just there to give in like our 2 cents on ideas and like ideas that people would want, and we think that we could market well to obviously the 3 different schools of RTA. And yeah, like I said, we run RTA Frosh. That's mainly like one of the biggest things that we do. And this year it was all online, so that was pretty interesting. It was very interesting than last year, but a surprisingly like really good turnout. And because I was the only like sport media person like on like the information calls, basically we were talking about like classes and teachers and stuff like that. I was almost like not on a podium, but I was just like supposed to represent all of sport media, and I was like, okay, this is kind of difficult because I don't really know everything, right? But a lot of the first year students really appreciated it and would like message me being like, oh, thanks for all the help, thanks for all this stuff, right? So it's just a way to give back to the students and stuff like that, and to ultimately, I don't know, get my name out there, something else, especially for the resume. That's what they always like say is like, this can go on your resume. Plus, I've been on other student councils before, so I was pretty much used to it.
So how did you apply for this position, and what advice would you give to, like a first year student who's looking to apply as well?
So I had the same position last year as I do right now. And last year I wasn't actually on Curtis at the beginning of the year. So basically what I did was I applied to be a Frosh leader, and I became a Frosh leader, and I was once again like the only sport media person there. And they just loved, I guess, my energy and the way that I would be helping people and stuff like that. And so they asked me if I wanted to be the sport media rep because I didn't have anyone, and I saw it as just another opportunity, and so I said yes. And then this year, I went through that whole actual like interview process, instead of just getting like basically we want you, but getting recruited or something like that. But even still, I was just like, I know I'm going to be the only person applying, but even still, I'm going to be in this interview acting as if there's 10 other people competing for this, because ultimately at the end of the day, it's just a way to improve, I don't know, interview skills. But yeah, I got it. Just really having great energy, I guess, and bringing a lot of ideas and a lot of support to those. Like going into the interview, I had a lot of ideas. Like this year, I really wanted to focus on like mental health, and like having, especially next semester, I want to have like mental health check-ins with people, especially because school is online. Having maybe a panel with people who struggle with mental health, who are in the industry, and how to, overcome issues and things like that. And so that's like a big thing that I'm kind of working towards. And obviously like other sport media panels in a sense. But yeah.
I like that. You should try and get the, what was his name? Spoke to us in TV Lab, the last reporter, the CBC guy. I can't remember his name.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yes. Oh, I know who you're talking about. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry to him. But he's well established in the curling community. I'm not exactly a curling expert. But yeah, it's interesting that you've taken that on, and it's interesting you're the only person to apply. So if you are a younger year than us, apply and give Sam some competition, because I'm sure she'd love that. Would rather not have it handed. Actually, you probably would rather have it handed to you because you're guaranteed to get the position.
Oh no, I'm competitive. I'm very competitive.
Okay, that's a good transition.
Your high school experience really shows that. So we'll talk about your high school stuff quickly, because we also have to talk about your stuff you're doing with Spectra. We'll get into that. But high school, you went to Runnymede Collegiate, and you were quite successful when it comes to athletics there. You competed in volleyball and softball for sure. I'm going to assume you also did running because of your Instagram.
Did cross country?
Yeah, that's what I figured. I didn't want to get it wrong and get yelled at for saying that you did track instead of cross country, because those are two completely different things. But you won most improved player on your senior year or grade 12 volleyball team. You were the senior athlete of the year in your grade 12 year, and you won most promising athlete in grade 9. So clearly whoever gave that award could see the future, or I probably could just see the future. What did that sort of role play in your upbringing in terms of being a very competitive person and winning these awards? Like, athlete of the year is a pretty big accomplishment.
Yeah, I guess I guess growing up playing sports, I was always just kind of like driven, and even though I was competitive, I was still on I guess the quiet side. So I wouldn't seem as this big menacing person, especially in baseball. I'm this scrawny, only girl on the team playing, but a lot of the time, at the end of the game, when you go to shake someone's hand, they don't want to shake your hand because I hit off of them or something like that. And that just boosted an ego a little bit more. But but then going into high school, I think it was just really getting involved. I was quite involved in middle school as well, and I remember at my middle school graduation, I was like, I'm gonna get the Athlete of the Year award. I know it is. All my friends were like, you're gonna get it, and I'm like, I really hope so. And then sitting there at graduation, and I don't get it, and I am very upset by that. But obviously, I'm happy for my friend who did win it. And so going into high school is almost kind of need to prove myself a bit, that I can show to not only myself and my teammates, but also to the teachers what I'm capable to do, that my size isn't limited to my power. And so grade 9, like I did softball in the spring season, and my sister was in grade 12 at the time, so we were both on the same team. And I was the starting pitcher.
Wow.
And I won the MVP.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, it was like slow pitch. It wasn't really softball. It was slow pitch. It was like underhand pitching, whatever. But still, like, and then the coach gave me MVP for that year, and I was just like, okay, wow. Got it over my sister, who's been on the team for 4 years. Like, I was kind of shocked. But
she must have been so mad.
no, she actually wasn't mad because the coach, basically, both my sisters had that coach before, and I don't know, my sisters would have attitude with her and stuff like that. But as soon as like I went into the school, I was like the golden child to that coach, basically. Like I was on, I was like on all the teams that she coached and everything like that. And she even coached like volleyball throughout school and stuff like that. And so I remember she was my grade 9 coach, and that year as a grade 9, you don't really expect to start. And I remember starting, and I was like, I am not this good. Like, why am I starting? There's like grade 10s that should be starting because it was a junior team, right? And so that kind of just like, I guess, affected me more. And she ended up taking a break from teaching when I was in grade 10. So we had different coaches and stuff like that. And that was the year that I also did co-ed volleyball instead of softball, which was super fun and interesting. And then going back into grade 11 with my old coach coming back, during the first tryout, I guess, for the volleyball team, she was like, "You've gotten a lot stronger." And I was like, really? Like, I don't think that I have, right? Like, I'm still like this scrawny kid. But she definitely saw that in me. And it's weird because we would have the athletic banquet every spring, right? And they never say who the award goes to right off the top. They're always like, this individual would always show up early, stuff like that, whatever. And so it almost became a game between me and my friends, like in my grade and stuff, like, who is getting the award? So it's like, oh, this person was always on time. Okay, it's not that person because she's always late. It would just be like a process of elimination. and to be honest, like, when I would win an award, I kind of like, not necessarily didn't like it, but I was just like, oh, I'm like the center of attention right now. Like, I'm extremely nervous because it's like, whatever, it's like an award show. It's like a long walk up to the podium to get the trophy or the plaque or whatever. But by the time I was in grade 12, I was like on the athletic council too. So I was part of planning the athletic banquet. And so it was kind of hard for the coaching staff to like hide awards from me, which is like an element that they had to do. Like they had to hide a couple plaques that had my name on it and stuff like that. Because we obviously set it up in the morning/afternoon and we have it in the evening. But I mean, those really just like helped prove that I was, more than obviously my size, which I've said before, and that I was capable of doing a lot of things. And at the time, like in high school, doing all those sports, I was still like involved in other things. Like I said, I was on the athletic council. In grade 10, I was on student council. And I was also a part of like leadership camps and trips that I would, spend months planning and go away for a weekend and, have these awesome trips. And they all just kind of, I guess, molded me into the person I am. But also the confidence that people saw in me, like right out of the gate. And I just think that like coaches and staff have almost more effect on players than their teammates do sometimes. But,
and as a fellow scrawny kid, I can acknowledge that they always underestimate us in our athletic ability, and it's all about the power to weight ratio. So
yep, it's
we've
great.
got that going for us.
especially for volleyball, I was an outside hitter and I could jump pretty high, and so they never saw it coming, basically.
I never would have called that. I would have thought you were a setter or a backcourt. Wow.
Oh,
So
I
you
played
got
pretty much
hopped
everywhere.
then.
I played pretty much everywhere. Like I was setter in middle school and grade 9, and then I was like middle blocker, and then I was outside hitter. Yeah, I pretty much like basically the coach could put me anywhere on the court, and I would do perfectly fine.
Wow.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you have hops, but unfortunately, we do need to move on, and we have to touch on a couple more things before I ask you one final question. Then we do our hot takes. But quickly, in like 2 minutes or less, can you tell us a bit about your usher court op, like what you do for the Spectra as an usher / court op?
Yeah, so that's basically working at the MAC, which I haven't been doing since COVID, basically. But I would work events, basically, like ushering graduations, things like that, but also working the Ryerson home games. So whether it's hockey, basketball, or volleyball, either being an usher and signing people in, stuff like that, or setting up stuff around the court, or even there's a couple new things that I started to do. So I started to do things like game film. For like liability reasons, we have to record the games other than Rams live. So I started doing some of that, which was pretty fun because I just get to sit there and watch the game and move the camera back and forth. And then in January of this year, I became the scribe basically with the volleyball stats crew. So basically, scribe is like I'm handwriting down each play. So we have someone doing stat call and stat input into the computer, and I'm basically a backup if the computer, glitches or messes up or we miss a play or something. Mm-hmm. And so it's a lot of handwriting. Like my hands used to hurt all the time, but it was like almost like another step into like expanding what I'm able to do at the MAC. And I loved it, and it was great. And for the most part, like doing scribe, I'm not necessarily like needed like all the time. But I remember literally the last game of the women's volleyball team was the quarterfinals, and the computer messed up or something went wrong and they had to restart it, and so they had to go off of my writing from the stat call for the first two games. Wow. And I was like, and like my boss already came over and was like, see, this is why you're needed, this is why you're important. I was like, right. Of course, like the last game that they're gonna play, yeah, the computer glitches out and I have to like pay attention a lot more, obviously. Like
Hopefully you have good handwriting.
It's kind of messy, but they can read it.
Good. It's not like a doctor's. But I want to wrap up. We wrap up with a couple things. Our final question, which I'll mention in a second, but before we do that, we're going to link all of Sam's stuff in our YouTube description. So you can go to The Big League on YouTube, look it up in the search bar, scroll past the 2 Tom Cochran songs. We're the first channel that pops up. Click on that, and Sam's episode will be there. We're currently live streaming it now, but I have to ask, have you figured out why it's called an Xbox when the logo is a circle?
I knew you were going. I knew it was something like that. I was like, that is middle school me, being annoying, obviously. Like, have you, like, I can't even, I'm going to go back and delete that post right now.
No,
like, I would so do that.
Your 2013 and 2012 Facebook is gold.
It is so
gold.
It is so dumb. I think I remember posting like a status like, guess who's eating a watermelon or something along those lines. And it's like, why am I posting this on Facebook? Like,
definitely did something like that. There was also definitely a bot account that was replying to every single one of your tweets saying that they lost weight and this is how you
yeah. Yeah. A lot of my friends' things got hacked in middle school. So that's probably why.
Yeah, that would be a problem, but I'd recommend going and checking that out. But we wrap up every interview before we do our hot takes, which we'll have to do pretty quickly. But what have been your 3 biggest takeaways from sport media, the industry, and Ryerson, just sort of in general? And what are your 3 suggestions for somebody looking to get into sport media?
3 takeaways. Diversify your skills, definitely. As you can tell, I do a lot. Just really talk to people outside of the program, because I think that's where you can get a lot of opportunities. I remember like a lot of the time people in the RCC stop me, and everyone else in our program is like, how do you know so many people? Like, you're so popular. And I'm like, I'm not. Like, I just talk to people. Like, yeah, especially in first year, I was mainly friends with media production people. But yeah, just talk to more people and talk more to your profs. Build more connections with your profs, because they're in the industry and they know a lot more key information. And then 3 things for someone coming into the program. Obviously, it's different now with the application process, right? But definitely,
if you don't want to talk specifically about the program, just do the industry in general. If you can't think of 3 for just the program.
Okay, getting into the industry, I would say see what works for others and almost try to mimic that. Like not necessarily like copy it in a way, but just like put your own spin on it, or really just get out there, try and find opportunities, even if it's like with a high school team or something like that. If you want to create hype edits of them or something like that, it's something for your portfolio, something for the future. And definitely use LinkedIn. LinkedIn is actually super helpful. Highly recommend it. A lot of people think it's just for middle-aged people.
Everyone get LinkedIn. If you're going to come on the show, get LinkedIn. That's how I find all of my information.
Oh, lovely. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right, and that leaves us just enough time to do hot takes. We have 3 minutes left in the show, but really 2 minutes because I got to wrap it all up. But hot takes, basically at the end of each show, we do a segment where we give a hot take. So in the past, Aiden predicted Mike Babcock getting fired. Whereas I predicted that baseball would be the first league back in June, and that didn't happen. So it's very hit or miss. But Sam, Aiden, do either of you have anything prepared? And we need to do this quickly.
All right. I just got to say the first thing off the top of my head. I don't know if it's an actual hot take or not, but my hot take is that Emil Riga and Jelani Reed will be on Sam's show tomorrow.
Oh, 2 days from now. Friday.
2 days from now. No, the hot take is that it's tomorrow. No.
Yeah, nice.
All right, Jelani and Emil.
Okay. I was supposed to think about this. I guess
hot take is that isn't true.
My hot take is you won't know. No. My hot take is this year. I think I'm going to talk about the Toronto Raptors here for a second. I think that people will realize how good of a player Matt Thomas is and how essential he is to the team. I am a huge Matt Thomas supporter, and it's his time to shine. Basically, it's his year. I think.
Finally, somebody who appreciates Matt Thomas like I do. Thank you. But my hot take, I'll make this very quick. The Edmonton Oilers don't make the playoffs next season or this season.
Okay.
I don't know if that's a hot take or not, but yeah. To wrap up, Sam, we really want to thank you for coming on. We genuinely really appreciate it, especially with it being a little last notice. But you've been an amazing guest. This has been a really good conversation. We will link all of her stuff, her Instagram, which I'm not going to try saying now because it's basically her last name spelled backward.
Oh, finally someone gets it.
Yeah. True. It's not that hard to figure out. Am I the only one who's figured that out?
Trust me, people have no clue what it is.
Well, that's really disappointing. Yeah. But yeah, it's her last name spelled backward, but we'll link it down below so I don't have to explain it because we only have 20 seconds left. We will link her website, which we didn't really talk about, down below as well. You can go and check out all her graphics and stuff, her Instagram, her everything. Check out her show on Friday. It'll be really good. I know it will be. But yeah, thank you for coming on. We'll be back next week at 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock on Spirit Live and YouTube. But with that, goodbye.